Hi guys, welcome to this video. In this video we analyze a paragraph summary question, CAT-2017 question. The format of the question was very simple. You were given a paragraph, right? And four options followed it. You need to identify the correct summary. Remember, summaries are, what is a summary at the end of the day? It's a snippet of the paragraph. In a single line or two lines, you're supposed to convey the most important idea of the paragraph. What is it that the paragraph is trying to convey? The obvious first step is to understand the paragraph itself. Generally, you get complicated paragraphs in summary writing. Simple reason for that is if they give you a simple paragraph, you'll be easily able to identify this main idea. So the level of complexity is to pose a challenge for you. Let's understand this paragraph. A translator of literary works. So the paragraph is going to revolve around translators. Needs a secure hold upon the two languages involved. Now, common sense, when you will translate from language 1 to language 2. That's what a translation is. Supported by a good measure of familiarity with the two cultures. So remember, when you translate something, it's not only about the meaning but the intent as well, and that is why you need to have an understanding of the culture. A particular thing might be a symbol of something in one culture and something else in the other culture. So if you translate it, right, keeping a wrong perspective, right, or ignoring what it meant in the original culture, you'll get the translation wrong. Now, for an Indian translating works in an Indian language into English, finding satisfactory equivalence in a generalized Western culture of practices and symbols in the original would be less difficult than gaining fluent control of contemporary English. So now there are two challenges involved. Challenge number one, you have to find satisfactory equivalence. So whatever is happening in the Indian language, whatever is happening in the Indian culture, when you are translating that Indian literary work, you need to have a Western equivalent for it. So he's saying this will be finding satisfactory equivalence. This is less difficult. That means it is easier than gaining fluent control over contemporary English. So for an Indian translating, it's not about the content. If we label satisfactory equivalence as content, what is the challenge? The challenge is language. On the other hand, when a Westerner works on text in Indian language, the interpretation of cultural elements will be the major challenge rather than control over grammar and essential vocabulary of the language. So for the Westerner, it gets inverted. Language is okay, but content equivalence, right? Content becomes a challenge. Now, what does the author say? It is much easier to remedy lapses in language in a translated English, in a text translated into English, than flaws of content. So, what is it that is easy to remedy? It is easy to remedy problems with English. So language you can fix, but content, flaws of content, it is difficult to fix. Since it's easier for an Indian to learn the English language than it is for a British or an American to comprehend Indian culture, translations of Indian texts is better left to Indians. So he's giving a logical argument right here that why should Indians translate Indian texts? So this is his conclusion here, right? Why should they do it? Because language errors can be fixed, language can be learned, but content errors, they are hard to eliminate. It's difficult for a British or an American to comprehend Indian culture. So these are the factors that you'll keep in mind while analyzing the answer options. Let's analyze the options. While translating, the Indian and the Westerner face the same challenges, but they have different skill profiles, and the former has an advantage. Do they face the same challenges? No. We saw in the previous slide, the challenges were inverted. As preserving cultural meanings is the essence of literary translations, Indians' knowledge of the local culture outweighs the initial disadvantage of lower fluency in English. Now, in the given case, remember, it's about whether an Indian should translate versus whether a Westerner should translate the work, right? So it's India versus West. That is Indian versus Westerner. That is what the debate is. This is not about the Indian's knowledge of local culture outweighing his initial disadvantage. Remember, content challenges, right, vis-a-vis fluency challenges, these have not really been compared. He's saying it's easier to fix those problems with language, right? It's, as far as an Indian is concerned, he will find it easier with the content rather than with the language, right? But these disadvantages, they don't outweigh each other, right? Even if you have a problem with English, this can be fixed. It's not about outweighing these two problems. See, Indian translators should translate Indian text into English, the last line of the paragraph, as their work is less likely to pose cultural problems which are harder to address than the quality of language. So this is the reason he gave for why should Indian translators translate Indian text. This is the exact reason that we discussed. Hence, it is the correct answer. Option number D, Westerners might be good at gaining reasonable fluency in new languages, but as understanding the culture reflected in literature is crucial, Indians remained better placed. This is not a generalization. Now what he has done is, he has converted the debate between Westerners and Indians into what? Whether in Westerners, he's basically saying Westerners are good at learning new languages, Indians remain better placed to understand culture. That is not the case here. Indians remain better placed to understand Indian texts, to translate Indian texts. Why? Because they have an understanding of Indian context. An inference that you can derive out of the passages, and if this was a question asked, who should translate, right, out of Indians and Westerners, who is it that should translate Western texts? Westerners should do that. Why? Not because of the language, for the simple reason, if it's a European text written by the Greeks or written by someone in the Western culture, people in the Western culture will be better suited to understand the cultural import, the cultural significance of it. That is what the author is trying to say. This is not a generalization that Westerners should deal with new languages, Indians should deal with culture. That has not been done. Hence, the correct answer here is option number C. As always, if you understand the key meaning of the paragraph, you'll be easily able to identify the correct answer option as well. Right? Thank you very much for watching this video and happy learning.